Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Reading Little Blue Books out loud while stoned. Today we're going to delve into part 3 of Little Blue Book number 467, titled Evolution Made Plain, written by John Mason. Now, although we don't have a copyright date in this, most of the times they're written in the 1920s and 30s. And I did a little research in the Scopes trial, which had to do with teaching of evolution in school. It took place in 1925. So I'm not sure if this is written prior to that, around that time, or after that time. But either way, here we go. Part 3, Evolution Made Plain. Natural selection in social evolution. The law of natural selection, or of the survival of the fittest, is not confined to plant and animal life. Its sway is universal. Everything that is born, spawned, hatched, sprouted, conceived, invented, or founded is tested by this law. And if found insufficient, unfit, is weeded out, leaving the fittest, the best, the truest to survive. On the mental plane, the law of the survival of the fittest is often restricted in its operation, and the struggle unnecessarily prolonged because of the intolerance of those of the older dominant belief. The world lags because they refuse to permit the new idea to meet the old on equal terms before the only court having jurisdiction over truth and error, the court of reason. Intolerant people, and they are legion, either lack faith in the power of truth to triumph over error, or they harbor a lurking doubt in their own minds in regard to the amount of truth embodied in the belief they so obnoxiously shield. They regard belief, their belief, as something to be protected at any cost. Freedom of opinion, intellectual honesty, truth itself must yield rather than their belief be in jeopardy. They seem to think it more blessed to believe something they received at second hand than to investigate and know the truth. With them, it's believe so and so. Open your mouths like young mockingbirds and swallow it. Smack your lips and call it good. For people of that mental type, to tell us to think, why, that is never thought of. This forcing one to subscribe to a doctrine through fear or to accept an idea on authority belongs to the medieval age, and we resent it, we whose minds have not been altogether shaped by the kingly, priestly authority of 500 years ago. We say, give us the evidence of your beliefs. If they are sufficient, we cannot help believing. Let us meet in fair discussion and compare evidences. Drop your intolerance. Let your idea stand or fall on its merits. That's all we ask of ours. Let the law of natural selection have a chance to operate. Not belief, but truth is the one essential, and when discussion reveals the evidence supporting it, belief is attached to it like steel filings to a magnet. O ye of little faith, doubt not that in a struggle for existence between truth and error, the fittest, that is, truth, will survive and error be eliminated. Truth crushed to earth will rise again, the eternal years are hers, while error, wounded, withers in pain and dies among her worshippers. A lie on the throne is a lie, still. And truth in a dungeon is truth, still. And a lie on the throne is on the way to defeat, and truth in a dungeon is on the way to victory. If there be anything that cannot stand the truth, let it crack. Evolution and the Bible. The Bible itself contains evidences of evolution, As the Jews climbed up in the scale of civilization, their ideals, their conception of what should constitute a god also arose. It is a far cry from the ancient Hebraic conception of God, down through the prophets to the idea of divinity as taught by Jesus. Let the reader lay aside his prejudice, if any he has. Be honest with himself, and compare Jehovah of the early Jews with Jesus' portrayal of God as a father, as one whose synonym is live. Jehovah, according to the early writers, was stern, wrathful, vengeful. I will mock you in your calamities, vain and jealous. I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Cruel, hardening the hearts of his powerless victims in order to punish them for doing what they could not help doing. And according to Joshua, Jehovah commanded him to kill all his enemies, old and young, even the children, and he gave the captured wives of the enemy to the soldiers of the Jewish army. Deceptive. I have sent lying spirits onto Ahab. In short, and in very truth, he was a god having all the frailties and imperfections of man, and not man at his best either. Take the Genesis story of creation. When Jehovah created Adam, he knew, being an all-wise God, that Adam would fall. Therefore, Adam could not have done otherwise than to yield to temptation. For to have resisted would have proven God's foreknowledge false. Then why pronounce a curse on one and his billions of descendants for doing what God's foreknowledge made unavoidable? Again, it is said that when Jehovah made up his mind to destroy the human race, it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth. That is, he had made a mistake, like you and I, and was sorry of it. Like you and I. How like a man was Jehovah in his short-sightedness. And this is part of that story of the origin of man which we are asked to accept by the anti-evolutionists instead of the scientific explanation. Before history, there was mythology. Beyond the earliest ascertained historic facts of every people, of every early nation, was a mass of myths portraying its childish beliefs concerning its origin, its gods, its heroes, etc. The Jewish nation was no exception. Scriptural literalists, those who believe in the verbal inspiration of the Bible, know that all ancient peoples had their myths, all except the Jews. In the face of a million facts, they still contend that the impossible stories of the early Jews are true as gospel. In fact, that they are a part of the gospel. The greatest obstacle to the popular acceptance of the doctrine of evolution is a belief in the verbal inspiration of the Bible and its literal interpretation. The more conservative or orthodox element of the churches regards the Bible as a direct quotation of the exact words of God. Their conception of inspiration is that the various writers merely held the pen while God caused it to move over the surface of the parchment, tracing the characters that spelled his very words. The fact that the various books of the Bible are written in almost as many different styles would seem to disprove verbal inspiration to any thinking mind. Certainly, those books called the Bible are inspired, and in precisely the same sense as Shakespeare's plays, Burns' poems, and Emerson's essays are inspired. That is, the writers felt strongly an impulse to write, and in every instance the writings were stamped with the individuality of the author. All inspiration is not on the same level. The higher the spirituality, the deeper the source. For example, as one writer has pointed out, when Paul said, "Alexander the coppersmith did me much evil, the Lord reward him according to his works," he was not inspired in the same sublime degree as was Jesus when, rising above his own sufferings, he remembered his tormentors in the prayer, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they do." The belief in verbal inspiration has scotched the wheels of progress at every turn. 400 years ago, those who taught the redundancy of the earth were denounced as heretics. It was a belief in verbal inspiration that inspired the church to force Galileo, who taught that the earth is not the center of the universe, but that it revolves around the sun, to make the recantation. I, Galileo, being in my 70th year, being a prisoner and on my knees before your eminence, abjure, detest, and curse the error and the heresy of the movement of the earth. Even Newton's greatest discovery of the law of gravitation was denounced as subversive of natural and infertility. No, there's no T at the end. Infertility, Inferentially, infertility of revealed religion. Revealed religion, I guess. 100 years ago, the use of anesthetics in childbirth was opposed in Scotland on the ground that it was seeking to remove the curse God had placed upon the daughters of Eve for her transgression. King Charles of Spain declared that the digging of a canal across the Isthmus of Panama, thus severing North and South America, would be a sin. For it is not written, what God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. In America, the famous Reverend Cotton Mather wrote in a letter to John Higginson, informing him that the General Court had given secret orders to a sea captain to waylay William Penn and the 100 Quaker colonists, heretics and malignants, who were then on their way to Pennsylvania, capture the ungodly crew, and sell them to Barbados, where slaves fetch good prices in rum and sugar. For in so doing the Lord may be glorified and not mocked on soil of this new country. Closing his pious letter with the fastidious phrase, yours in the bowels of Christ. In 1826, the school board of Lancaster, Ohio, refused to permit the use of the schoolhouse for a debate as to whether railroads were practicable. The letter reads, you are welcome to the schoolhouse to debate all proper questions in, but such things as railroads and telephones, the possibility of which were talked then, are impossibilities and rank infidelity. There is nothing in the Word of God about them. If God designed that his intelligent creature should travel at the frightful speed of 15 miles an hour, he would have clearly foretold it through his holy prophets. It is a device of Satan to lead immortal souls down to hell. Is there needed stronger proof than this of the mental slavery to which the belief in verbal inspiration reduces its devotees? Today, those who oppose evolution for biblical reasons occupy the same absurd position as those who persecuted Galileo, denounced Newton, opposed the use of anesthetics in childbirth, thwarted the digging of a Panama Canal, regarded the introduction of railroads and other industrial innovations as tricks of the devil to damn our souls, and approved the selling into slavery of the adherents of a rival Christian sect. This medieval belief of verbal inspiration has filled the Christian world with strife and intolerance, and has drenched its soil with the blood of tens of thousands of heretics. It was the belief that for hundreds of years impelled whatever sect that had the power, be it Catholic or Protestant, to persecute, imprison, torture, burn, kill in every conceivable way those who differed with it in the interpretation of certain scriptural texts. This narrow, intolerant belief, the very negation of the Christ Spirit, lives today. Still does. But thanks to modern science and intellectual progress, its teeth are prawn. Let us get this straight. Boy, they had no idea. Evolution is not, in the slightest degree, opposed to religion, but it does conflict with the noxious growths of superstition and doctrinalism, which half conceals religion. True Christianity will shine all the brighter with its concealments cleared away. The study of evolution broadens and enlarges one's conception of religion. Those who are afraid that to accept evolution would cause them to lose their faith are already weak in faith. Those who insist on, as of paramount importance, a belief in some mystical plan of salvation, including certain rites to be observed, and Paulinists rather than Christians. Scattered throughout Paul's writings are expressions regarding the fall of Adam, the total depravity of man, the atoning blood of Christ, etc., which are harmless, though, if regarded simply as rhetorical flourishes, but linked up in a finely wrought-out scheme of redemption and coupled with an insistence on the absolute necessity of belief in the same as the only means of individual salvation, why, this Pauline gospel has catered to human selfishness, has filled the world with theological disputations and sectarian strife, and has relegated into the background the great yet simple spiritual truth of the lowly Nazarene. As a doctrine, its mysticism has a natural affinity with inherent superstition, dregs of which lie at the bottom of every human soul. It is Jesus' persistent insistence on the duty of each to serve humanity that made him a great religious teacher, and it is his teachings, if we heed them, that will save us, and not his shed blood. That dried up within a few hours of his crucifixion. To say that we are saved by the blood of the Lamb is a fine figure of speech, though a well-worn one. Of course, the martyrdom of Jesus adds emphasis to the truths he expounded, but it makes them not one whit truer than they were. Will the verbal inspirationalist please tell us when God quit sending messages to the world couched in his own words? It may be that that kind of inspiration ceased before Paul began preaching. If so, Paul was no greater as an authority than Whitefield or Moody. There is no reason why we should not read the Bible just as we would any other book with reason enthroned. Popular objections answered. New chapter. Note, the following objections to evolution, with replies thereto, are taken from a debate which the writer and several anti-evolutionists conducted some time ago through the columns of a popular weekly. An opponent says, the evolutionists are trying to rob God of the honor of creation by substituting certain natural laws for his omnipotent power. This world and all therein didn't just happen. It was created on purpose. We oppose this Darwin heresy because it conflicts with the divinely inspired Word of God. My opponent should be more positive in some of his statements and not say so-and-so is the opinion of scientists if he would have us forsake our old beliefs and adopt his. In regard to that crust of conservatism of ours, which he says is so thick and hard that the truth cannot percolate through it, I, for one, would rather have a defensive armor so tough that lightning could not phase it than be so spongy as to absorb any ism I came in contact with. It is a reflection upon the power, the glory, and divinity, and the dignity of the Almighty to say that the creative act was by the operation of natural law, a slow, gradual, long-continued act, rather than a short, quick, mechanical, or supernatural process. Before the dawn of science, even the brightest minds, knowing little or nothing of the law of cause and effect, could not conceive of God as performing his mighty works, save in some man-like manner. It seems that they had the idea, and a great many still have it, that during those 6 days of 24 hours each, the Creator went about his work at his little old mud mill, mixing and grinding the material and shaping and molding it into all sorts of animal forms on his potter wheel. It is time for the world to rid itself of the primitive idea that man originated as a sort of handmade, table-turned piece of pottery. Others say that God merely spoke all things into existence. If the view be correct, then according to the rest of the Genesis story of creation, God became so tired from this lingual feat of 6 days' duration that he was compelled to take a rest at the week's end. It is possible that a God of infinite power and endurance should become so weary with a week's work, either of hand or tongue, that he would require a rest. There is not the slightest evidence that God ever did an hour's work save through natural law. Between the scientists and the literal interpreters of the Bible, the war has been long and fierce, and has raged on many a battle front. But so far the scientists have won in every contest. There was once a battle between the scientists and those who believed the earth to be flat. For did not John the Revelator see 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth? The literalists were defeated. There was once a contest between the astronomers and those who believed the sun and moon revolved around the earth. And he said in the sight of all, Israel, sun, stand thou still upon Gabon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. Joshua 10:12 and 13. The literalists were defeated. There was a clash between the geologists and those who believed the world to have been created in 6 24-hour days. Again, the literalists were defeated. There is a combat between those who hold the view that all organisms, including man, were created by natural laws, operating just as they do today, and those who hold to either the potter or the vocal process of creation. The latter, well, they occupy the same position as those who said the earth is flat, and that it was made between the blink o' mornin' on the great first Monday 6,000 years ago and the evening twilight the following Saturday. Scientists do not claim that life on this earth began by accident, or that anything just happens. On the contrary, it is owing to scientists that a belief in accidents and chance in the material world has been banished from thinking minds. It is true that a great majority of the people still believe in chance in the psychic world, such as a certain individual prompted by certain motives and acting in accord with his natural nature under certain conditions did a certain thing, when the same individual, prompted by the same motives, could have done otherwise. That is to say, the same causes acting under the same conditions can produce effects of various kinds, either good acts or bad acts. But science will finally force the world to accept the whole truth, that mind is as much subject to law as is matter, that the thoughts, desires, deeds of men are shaped by law. Scientists are trying to teach us to exercise our powers of reason, to form our own opinions from the evidence, not passively to accept opinions on authority. Their method is the direct opposite of that of the orthodox theologians. The latter wish us to regard authority in matters of religion, especially as superior to reason. No, Mr. Opponent, I don't wish anyone to forsake his old belief and accept mine on my authority, or that of anyone else. Let reason and evidence be the only authority. To win converts to evolution is not my only object in discussing the subject. What is quite as important, and frankly to me as it looks like enjoyable, turning the page, Yep, as enjoyable, is to make use of the opportunities the discussion affords me of giving a sort of fifth rib dig of the thumb to those complacent ones who, judging by the manner they acquired and still retain their beliefs, seem to think that the mere accident of one's birth and parentage in a certain time and place, thus bringing him in contact with certain prevailing opinions, is proof that those opinions are true. And I think we'll stop there. And we're at the middle of page, 40, looks like. And that'll end part 3. I'll see you in part 4. Thanks for listening.